Hi friends, my name is Colby Sharp. I am a fifth grade teacher in Michigan, and I am really excited to read these 2020 books. So I'm going to share with you 10 2020 books I am so excited to read. Are you ready? Let's go. The first book that I am dying to read in 2020 is The Best of Iggy by Annie Barrows. She wrote the Ivy and Bean chapter book series that so many of our students have loved over the years, and I am really excited to meet Iggy, who appears to be a troublemaker in this new illustrated novel chapter book. It looks phenomenal. I'll just give you a little taste of one of the illustrations, but it looks super fun, and I think my kids are going to love it. And I need to read more chapter books in 2020 because I didn't read enough in 2019. I stuck mostly to middle grade novels, so excited to give this one a try. Next up is Prairie Lotus by Newbery medalist Linda Sue Park. I am a huge Linda Sue Park fan. I am a huge historical fiction fan. I know very little about this book. I read the back just before I started, but it looks really good. It takes place in 1880 in LaForge, Dakota Territory. It's about a girl named Hannah who is half Chinese, and she knows from experience that most white people don't like to have neighbors who aren't white themselves. It's sad that some things are still the same in 2019. That makes me sad. Anyways, I'm very excited to dip into some historical fiction, which traditionally is one of my favorite genres of books, and I didn't read very many last year, so excited to dip into that here. Naomi Shihab Nye, a book of her poems, Castaway Poems for Our Time. And you might sense a theme here. I'm trying to read a lot of books, types of books that I didn't read last year. So in 2019, I didn't read a lot of poetry. And knowing that Naomi is one of the best, I'm going to read this book. I might read this book first of this pile. I'm excited. Sorrow of the Paper Mill. Don't Mess with Texas. Trash is a Ticket to Nowhere. So excited to dig into these poems. And isn't that cover fun? Poems for Our Time. Can't wait. Next up, I just saw this book recently on, I think, Facebook or Twitter. It's called History Smashers. This is the Mayflower, a new series from Kate Messner. We study this time period in my fifth grade social studies class, so I'm really excited to read this myself and then see if there are possible parts that I can read with my students, or maybe read the whole thing. I don't read enough longer nonfiction text with them. A lot of picture books, but I don't read enough longer nonfiction. So I'm super stoked for this series. It looks like there is another one in the series about women's right to vote. So really excited for this one. Nonfiction, not my strength. So excited for some nonfiction that hopefully I love, and then I can get my kids to read or read aloud to them. Really excited. Next up, A Home for Goodness and Dogs by Leslie Connor. Well, folks, we know that the author of The Truth as Told by Mason Buttle is one amazing author. I also loved her book. Was it Perry T. Cook? I believe it was, the boy who started the book living in prison with his mother. She can just flat out write, so her books get moved to all of my to-read lists when they're coming out. It's a dog. I know a lot of people get nervous when they see a dog on the cover, a dog in the title. Another unique masterpiece from award-winning author Leslie Connor about loss, love, and the world's best bad dog. Oh boy. That's all you need to say. Kids are going to read it, but I'm going to read it too. Can't wait. Next up, Jewel Parker Rhodes, Black Brother. I know nothing about this book. This is not the final cover, but I know that Jewel Parker Rhodes makes me think. I know that Jewel Parker Rhodes' words are beautiful. I know that her stories stay in our hearts for a very long time. So I'm stoked to read her latest. I just saw this cover. This is A Flicker of Courage, and I saw the author, and I'm like, Deb Coletti. I know her. I read one of her books, but I could not for the life of me think of the book. And that's because it was a young adult novel about this girl who was abused and ran across the country. My wife recommended it to me, and I loved it. And so I saw that name. I'm like, who is it? And then I figured that out. I made the connection. I probably Googled it. And so I got to see what she does in middle grade. Super excited to check out A Flicker of Courage. It sounds like this crazy fantasy thing. So super stoked to read this about a boy named Henry who's living a miserable life with the meanest parents and the best dog. Man, kids can relate to that. Next up is Brandy's first middle grade novel, The Only Black Girls in Town. I love when young adult authors try middle grade. And I love when middle grade authors try young adult. I love seeing authors try new things. So I'm really excited to see what Brandy does here in this middle grade novel. The back it says, about the friendship between the only two black girls in town. I can't wait to read this. Oh, it comes out in March. I probably should tell you that for all of these books. Sorry, my bad. All right, next up is Wink by Robert Harrell. I know absolutely nothing about this book. Zero, zilch, nada. Except for that the boy, I think, has cancer and maybe loses his eye. So I'm not sure about that. But that's really interesting to me. My cousin, who is about, 20 years younger than me. How old am I? 38, she's 18. Yeah, my cousin who is about 20 years younger than me had retinoblastoma, a form of cancer in her eye. And she actually had to get her eye removed as a young child. And she's had like a fake eye her whole life. You can't even really tell. But I don't know. That connection just made me really want to read this book. It looks good. Looks funny. Max Brailer blurbed it, who's the Last Kids on Earth author who my kids love. So excited to read this. Surviving middle school with one eye open. Pretty exciting. And then finally, here in the real world, Sarah Pennypacker, the author of Pax. This is going to be one of those books that I'm not going to read anything that anyone says. I have not read the back. I have not read anything online. I've avoided anything about this book because I just want to experience this book knowing nothing. Sometimes it's really, really fun and refreshing to go into a book knowing nothing about it. So these are the 10 of the books. I actually had about 18 and I had to narrow it down to 10. These are 10 of the books that I'm dying to read in 2019. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, in the description, I keep looking at my watch because I have to get my kids from lunch. Please let me know down in the description below, which one of these 10 books do you want to read most? Which one of these 10 books do you think I should read first? I'm excited. It's going to be a wonderful year for kids. It's going to be a wonderful year for readers because of all of these wonderful books we have. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an awesome-tastic day. Happy reading.